So you're wondering what fire protection is gonna be like, and you clicked on this video, so I'm gonna tell you. Okay, so as some of you may know, I am a firefighter in the Air Force, and some of you have requested for me to make a video on my experience at tech school. So we're just gonna get right into it. Fire Protection Tech School is in Goodfellow Air Force Base in San Angelo, Texas. Fun fact, I actually lived in San Angelo when I was younger for about 3 years before I even went to tech school over there. The reason why was because my dad was actually an instructor at the fire academy that I went to, so yeah. Fire Protection Tech School is 68 or 69 training days, so that includes all your work days, so that's not including the weekends and or holidays, so it adds up to you being there for about 3 or 4 months. When you first arrive at Goodfellow, you will be assigned a dorm and you'll be in processing for about a week maybe. It really depends. I know some people who are there for 4 weeks and still had not started tech school. Me, thankfully, as soon as I got there, I was enrolled. I started training in about a week after I arrived at the base. Yeah, so the people that are waiting they're called casual status. I never was in that category, but from what I remember, all they did during the day was clean, do PT, and kind of do whatever else that they needed to do, I think. Anyways, for your in processing, it's pretty brutal. This might be the hardest part of tech school. You go through a bunch of presentations, you sit in a room for hours on end, you get snack breaks and shit like that. That first in processing week was pretty bad. Week 1 of tech school training. Now, I don't know all the specific details of tech school. It's been a couple years and I'm trying to remember. For me, what I remember was day 1. We woke up at around 3:30 because we were told that we needed to be in formation by 4. I think there was some miscommunication, I remember, because we woke up and we didn't even have to form up with them or something. Basically, we all formed up at 4 a.m. and we all marched to the DFAC for breakfast. I don't remember how long we got at breakfast, maybe like 30 minutes or less. But yeah, we ate and then we formed back up outside, and then we would march all the way to the high bay, which is where the fire academy was located mainly, and we would all form up again. We would sing the Air Force song and the Airman's Creed, and then we'd be dismissed to go to our specific groups. The first 10 days of tech school is EMR, or at least it was in my days. I believe like right before we got there, EMR was actually the last portion of tech school, like the last 10 days, and I think the reason why they switched it was because so many people would fail EMR and they had gone through that whole 60 days of tech school already, and then just to fail on those last days, they had so many people failing that they're like, oh, now we're gonna switch it. I think that's what they ended up doing. Yeah, EMR was the first 10 days and it was difficult for me. I'm not a very good test taker. I'm just not a very good student in general. It takes a lot of work for me to be able to do well on a test. EMR was difficult for me. A lot of other people say it wasn't difficult. All you need to do is study, but like, it was hard. There's 3 tests in EMR. You have 3 chances, I believe. I actually failed a test in EMR. It was devastating. Okay, so when you do fail a test, not when, but like if you fail a test, what they'll do is you're gonna go retake that test, but they like line you up on this wall and you have your booklet with you, and they like go through your booklet and they're like, okay, why didn't you highlight this? Why didn't you answer these questions here? Like, they bombard you with questions. They're like, why didn't you highlight? It's like, bruh, this isn't the way I study. The way I study is writing down each definition in a separate notebook. I don't write on the actual booklet because I get crazy with the messiness on the booklet. Like, my book needs to be clean, and then I have a separate notebook that I write all my notes in. That's just the way I did. Or I do flashcards. But anyways, they're like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I'm like, this is not the way I do it. I'm sorry. That was kind of mean, whatever. And then I went to go retake the test and I passed it. Oh, you also go to a separate room and then like study with an instructor, and you kind of just go over areas that you needed help in. Anyways, that's EMR. So after EMR, you go on to block 1. In block 1, you get your gear issued, go through firefighter 1 like firefighter fundamentals. And there's a lot of things that you do. You practice working with your cylinder, your bottle. You do some evals and you do some bunker drills. You do a lot of bunker drills. When you line up in the beginning of the day with your specific groups, because the classes are like maxed out at like 12 or 15 or something like that, and you line up with your specific group, but you're in like the very front of the high bay in the beginning of the weeks, and as you progress forward, you move like to the next spot, and you do this all throughout tech school, and then by the end you're at like the end of the high bay, and it just, I don't know, it's a good mental feeling when you're like all the way at the other side and not in the very beginning. But anyways, block 1 is 20 days. I think there's 3 tests there also. All the tests are computer tests, so that doesn't really help either. It really depends on what your schedule is, but you'll have days where you're only doing classes and you're only, you know, taking notes, and then you'll have days where you're only doing physical portions. I don't remember much from block 1. But anyways, after that is block 2. Now block 2, you go through firefighter 2, you do some fire suppression, you have your mid-block test and your end of block test. And you do some live burns. So this is the block where you first interact with live fires. Like a forward lay, reverse lay, search and rescue. Search and rescue is tough. One tip I have, buy knee pads for search and rescue unless you want to have scabs all over your knees. Anyway, you do some confined space. That might have been in block 1, but I don't really remember. Confined space, you do a dummy drag, you do hose pull, knots, you go interior with a live fire. You do this thing called above and below. Block 2 is also 20 days. So you do a lot within the 20 days, and I think you also have 3 tests. I think you have a total of 3 fails or 5 fails, I don't remember, that you're allowed. Phase 3, or this is just where you're gonna be going through Hazmat and ARF. Hazmat I think is like 5 or 7 days, and then ARF is like 11 days or something. Right before we were about to go to Hazmat, everyone told us that Hazmat was the hardest. I remember actually in my class, we challenged each other a lot. The morning of the test, we'd always ask each other questions, and I remember we'd like compete to see who could get the highest score or who could get 100. There was actually an instructor who was willing to give up his breakfast burrito for whoever got 100. I remember I got closest to 100. I got 98, and he still gave me the burrito, so much appreciated to whoever that was. And then you have ARF. ARF is aircraft rescue firefighting. Basically, you go through tools and equipment. I don't know, you use like a K-12 to like saw through the door. The door, they just put like a metal piece on top of the door and you saw through it. You do a lot of dummy rescues. One of the last evaluations we had in ARF was you had to rescue a couple dummies from the aircraft, and you know, you had to go in their bottles, throttles, and battery. You had to go turn the oxygen off. The whole aircraft was smoked out, and you had to, there's a lot of shit you had to do. And after ARF, you have your graduation.
Anyone see Krueger? Or 6th grade.
Graduation. For the people that were graduating, they didn't have to form up in the morning with the rest of the tech schoolers. They got to form their separate little formation. We'd be the first in line for breakfast, and we just pretty much got to chill all day until our actual graduation. And then 3 days a week you have PT. Tuesdays there's mentorship. Basically, you got to ask any questions that you had with the instructor that was your mentor, and they would give you any advice and things like that. And then Fridays, there's safety briefs for the weekend. Every single Friday there is a safety brief. Basically, don't drink, don't do anything stupid. But of course, people drank and did stupid shit. I kind of want to go through my personal experience. So like I said, I failed one of the tests in EMR, and then I took it again, but I passed. So that was done and over with. But then I failed a evaluation, I think in block 2. I don't remember exactly what event it was. It was like a forward lay or reverse lay or something. We were like split up in a team of 4, and my job was to connect the hydrant and open or simulating opening the hydrant. When we practiced, okay, we practiced a few times. I'm still heated about this. We practiced a few times and we used this specific hydrant that was very much broken in and used, so it was a lot easier to, you know, wind up the hydrant and open it. Now when the evaluation came, my instructor switched it up on us. We went to a different hydrant. I was like, okay. Didn't think anything of it at the time. So, you know, all my crew was doing what we were doing. Here's the thing also, we had a time cap. So if we went over the time cap, we failed as a team. It was my time to shine, right? I had the LDH, or the large diameter hose. I attached it to the hydrant and I went to the hydrant wrench and started to try and open that bitch. Bruh, tell me why. That shit was rusted shut. So I was trying my best. I was putting all of my weight on it. I started stepping on that bitch. So I was doing everything I could to open it. And everyone was like yelling at me, telling me to go faster, especially the instructor. I'm like, bitch, this thing is rusted shut. Give me some fucking time. I eventually got it open and all 4 of us gathered together and he came over and said, so you busted your time, but I'm not failing you guys. I was like, oh, thank God. He's like, I'm just failing you, and pointed to me. I'm a very emotional person, and I was trying to hold back tears because my instructor was a Marine. You know he don't give a shit if you're crying. And so I was trying my best to hold back my tears, and I was just like, He's like, yeah, you had trouble opening that hydrant, and that was the reason why your team busted the time cap. Everyone else did what they had to do, and you took too long. I was like, yep. And I was you know when your throat starts like hurting because you're trying to hold back your tears so much? Yeah. And then he's like, all right, dismissed. And so we turned around and headed back to our little like rest area. And as soon as I turned around, I started like hyperventilating. And what I do when I'm frustrated and trying not to cry, I start laughing. It looks a little scary. I've done this a few times here at this base too. If some of my coworkers are watching, you know what I mean. Yeah, so I started hyperventilating and like laugh crying. And then my teammates were like, dude, you good? And I'm like, yeah. And tears coming down my face. Yeah, and then the instructor came over to me again and he's like, is this your first fail? For some reason in my head, I was thinking like, oh, he's gonna let this pass. It's gonna be all good. And then he looks at me, he's like, is this your first fail? And I said, yes. He was like, well, we're gonna try again tomorrow. I was like, you motherfucker. But I did it again the next day. We used a different fucking hydrant and I passed. It was easy. That was the one time I cried and failed an evaluation. Also, there is things called phases in tech school. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Barely anybody gets to phase 3. But phase 1 basically is you're not allowed to leave base. You have to wear your PT uniform everywhere, or your uniform. You're not allowed to wear your regular clothes. Phase 2, you get to wear your own clothes, and I think you get to go off base. Yeah, you get to go off base. Phase 2 is great. You want to get to phase 2. Now, here's the thing. I'm a goody two-shoes. I don't really break the rules. There's a lot of phase 1ers who would wear regular clothing, go off base constantly, not thinking they were gonna get caught. They get caught, and basically our whole squadron gets punished. Yeah. I love that about the military, right? One person does something wrong, then everyone's punished. It's great. I love it. Yeah, so don't do that shit. So my dad was so kind and drove my car all the way from Washington State to Texas by himself. So I thankfully had my car during phase 2, and I got to go off base with my own car by myself. The first thing I did was I found a CrossFit gym, and I'll never forget, I loved that gym so much and I love the people there so much. 3, 2,
1. It was at this moment he knew. He fucked up.
A few moments later. "2,000 years later."
Yeah, so that's what I did when I went off base. I went to the gym because the gym on base is fine. The gym's fine on base, but like it's crowded, it's packed. I decided to pay whatever, $100 a month. I was only gonna be there for 2 months to have an unlimited membership to go to CrossFit. I don't know what else to talk about. You'll have cool instructors, you'll have some not cool instructors. It just kind of depends. The coolest instructor we ever had, ABH2 West, he was so chill. He was a Navy instructor for phase 2, I think. Phase 1 or phase 2? I think actually it was phase 1. He was our instructor. But dude was so chill. Yeah, sure, every time we got a little rowdy, he would like put us in our place, but like, he was such a chill guy. Oh, also, so during lunch, there's this building that most of us would go to after we got our food. They have this like lounge area where there's games and shit, and then they also had a movie room. Every time we went, at least me and my friends, a lot of other people did this too, but they would go to the movie room to take a nap. Technically you weren't allowed to take a nap, but everyone would take a nap. Like, what do you expect? We were just training and or taking classes all day. We're fucking tired. That nap helped so much. Like, naps are proven to help you. Shit, I'm just saying this, but I think naps are proven to make your day better. But there was always a movie playing in there, but you're just so exhausted that it's easy to go to sleep. But yeah, we would always set timers on our phone just to make sure that we'd get up in time. You're always looking out for your buddies too. If they're still sleeping, you wake them up. And that is it, I believe. Tried to cover as much as I could. Now in my last video, I said I had a little brief talk about tech school and said that the hardest part was probably the academics, and I still stand to that. Studying is hard. Oh, also, there's a big emblem, like seal thing on the ground that you're not allowed to step on the entire time you're at tech school, but you do get to step on it when it comes to graduation. So I have a picture here of my like boots like on the seal. It's stupid, but yeah, felt really good. Yeah, my graduation was great. And then after graduation, you have a choice to go to this thing called RAP. Basically, you get to go home for a couple weeks and help out your recruiter back home. My recruiter was super cool, and he had us work for maybe a couple hours and we were good to go, and we just hang out at home for the rest of the day. And then after those 2 weeks are done, then you go straight to your first base. That's tech school in a nutshell. If you have any questions, or if you have any corrections, if things have changed, let me know, because I kind of want to keep up with what's going on in tech school right now. But yep, I would say overall tech school is not difficult if you're motivated to do the shit that you need to do to pass. Keep your studying up, listen to what your instructors tell you to do, pay attention, and have fun. You're gonna make some really good friends here too that hopefully will be in your life forever. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave them below. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!